not just his son anymore. I'm still his son, I think. But I'm not his little son anymore. You know, I'm a grown man with my own child, my own life.
Yeah, so like I agree. I remember growing up and my mom always saying like, I can't afford this, I can't do X, Y, and Z. So when I grew up, I'm like, I want to position myself, you know, to not say that as much. Now, of course, like you said, when we develop these philosophies, is based on like what we didn't have. But then our kids, and this is just my opinion, they grow up and then we feel like there's this sense of privilege that they develop, at least from my experience. So, for example, I've been in a position where like I'm trying to make sure my kids have these things. I didn't have it. And I'm like, do they appreciate it the same way?
But
you know?
you got to think of this. What was supposed to be basic for us growing up, it wasn't. The things, the necessities that we were supposed to have, we didn't have.
Right.
And now that we're in a position to give those necessities to our kids, people think that we're overdoing it. And the reason why they think that we're overdoing it because the basic necessities wasn't given to us. So when you see somebody else getting those basic necessities, it seems over the top when it's actually not over the top. This is the basis.
Yeah.
You know, my kids come home, they should have clean water, clean food. You know, all of these things they should already have. They shouldn't have to run a power cord from next door or go next door and borrow water or go to the food pantry to get food and those type of things.
Right.
Not saying nothing's wrong with those services that are provided to people who need it, but when we're in a position that we don't have to do that,
Right.
Sometimes it ruffles feathers because some people don't want to give their kids the basic necessities, and because you are, they got to shine a light that what you're doing is wrong, so they can't think that it's over the top.
That's real. I know I hear that a lot when I'm navigating my kids. On one hand, they're like, oh, we appreciate like what you do with your kids is so dope. But then it's like this pressure to scale it back. So I definitely agree with that. Shifting the conversation a little bit because I know the people are going to want to talk more about these things. Deadbeat dads. What makes a deadbeat dad?
He's still alive and ain't doing enough for his kids. When he should be unalived. I can say unalive on Facebook, right? You just can't say the other word. So, a deadbeat dad, man, it's basically like people think it's financial, and it's not. It's always not financial because everybody ain't got money, man. Let's just put it out there. Everybody don't have money. Everybody don't have the means to have a lot of money, right? They may have the means to have the basic money to take care of the basic necessities. Right. So you don't want to put fatherhood based just on finances. Right. To me, a deadbeat is somebody who's unwilling to and shows no effort to and place themselves in a category to be incapable to take care of their kids physically, emotionally, spiritually.
Yeah.
If you choose not to do it and you can't, then that makes you a deadbeat.
Yeah.
It doesn't make you a deadbeat because you have to work 13 hours and can't get them every weekend.
Yeah.
Doesn't make you a deadbeat. It doesn't make you a deadbeat because you can't buy the newest shoes all the time. Doesn't make you a deadbeat. Yeah. So we have to take that word deadbeat and look at it as not just this totality of something.
Right.
It's little bits of pieces in there. Because you can be a deadbeat emotionally to your kids and not be a deadbeat to them financially.
Yeah.
You know, just because you're present don't make you active.
Why do you think there's this direct link to deadbeat being financial? Why do you think that?
I think that society has went away from what a father offers to a child, especially when you go back to the 60s and 70s, maybe early 80s, where a lot of the systems that were in place were designed for single mothers. And those single mothers were not allowed to have the father around. If he wasn't gainfully employed, they couldn't get food stamps then. You know, they couldn't get Medicaid then. A lot of the resources out there were just for single moms. And so now this mom has to make a choice. The other thing is that, and I'm not saying all fathers did this, but I know there had to be some fathers who had to make that decision. I can't be gainfully employed. I don't have the education.
Yep.
I need to leave so that you can get the services.
Yep.
And that's a hard decision to make. Yeah. But I believe some did make that decision. And then I have to hide my clothes when the worker come over.
Yeah.
I gotta hide my shoes under the bed. You know, those type of
facts.
things. So I think the financial aspect of taking care of a family when a man no longer could, and not because he was unwilling to, but because circumstances happened.
Yep.
Then everything became finances. Then you come in with what child support was, and now if you can't pay, you can't see your kids. Then that's saying that financial support is the main component,
Right.
of fatherhood and parenting. When it's not, because if you look back before the Industrial Revolution,
Yep.
where a lot of people didn't have money, the father still was there, making minimum money or no money, farming his own land, like these type of things. You know, being entrepreneurs and things like this. So society has put that label that the biggest aspect is the man has to pay. Now I want you to think of this: if that's the biggest aspect and the only aspect, once the government steps in and give you resources to take care of the kids, why isn't the father then allowed to do the other parts?
Facts.
If that's the biggest part,
Facts. Yeah.
then he should be allowed to do the other parts.
Yeah.
Now, child support is not for people like us. It's not for people like us.
I would like it not to be.
But it's necessary.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I would rather live in a world where people are forced to take care of their kids than be in a world where you have a choice
Yeah.
to pay or not. So I don't mind paying child support because it's okay. I can afford it. I can do it. I don't pay child support now, y'all, at all. My daughter lives with me. But there was a time where I did. But
For the record.
there was a time where I did, right? And I had to get to the point to understand, because I was like everybody else, bro.
Yeah.
What you doing with my child support money? Like, where that money going?
Woo!
Right?
Woo.
Like, where that money
Now,
going?
has this ever happened? You know, when you first was on child support, and then your child's mom will call you and ask for something, you like, what I'm paying child support for?
No, and I'll tell you why. You know, me and my ex-wife, we had an understanding when we were together of what I took care of with my daughter and what she took care of with my daughter. So like shoes and a lot of the clothes and stuff, I was doing that anyway, right? So it didn't matter to me what the courts said pay.
Right.
I knew what I was going to do. So I didn't have that mentality, but I did go through, and I'll call this the deadbeat mentality, right? And the deadbeat mentality is, what are you doing with the money that I'm giving you? Like, you're more concerned about what she's doing with the money, but child support, if done correctly, child support is just reimbursement to the mother or whatever parent that has them.
That's good.
Yeah, so if child support comes once a week or every 2 weeks, however it comes, and something happens on Monday, and the mom has to wait for your child support on Friday, she pays the whole price. When that child support comes back, she's just recouping what she gave, right?
Yeah.
And so when you think of it that way, then you start to think of things different. Then you realize, unless you're a millionaire, the child support you paying ain't taking care of the household.
Okay.
Right? It ain't taking care of everything. And if you have the kid with you, you would pay more anyway, because you wouldn't be counting it. Right? You wouldn't be counting the $300, $400 you're giving out. You just spend because you got your kid.
100.
So child support may be good for some people because they can regulate how much they spend on their kid. But I think that with deadbeat, that's the biggest part. The biggest part is always the financial part. And some people would rather skip jobs, work 3 months, and not pay for their kids. I just believe that there should be a system that the first day you go to work, it hits the child support alert.
Yeah. And my personal belief, because like you said, deadbeat mentality, but also like petty emotionally.
Yep.
Like when I first got put on child support, because I still am on child support, and one of my kids live with me, but that's a whole nother podcast. But within that, like when I first got put on child support, I was hurt because I looked at myself as like, I am paying.
Yep.
Right. But there was this disconnecting, misunderstanding behind like expenses.
Yep.
What she want the kids to have versus what I want the kids to have, how much I have versus there was a lot of that where having kids and not having like a great communication skills or ability.
We talked about this at the We Matter Now conference. Yeah, that communication piece.
It set up a lot of issues because there was a lot of assumptions. There was a lot of anger. There was a lot of pettiness. I never forget when I got first put on child support. I think I only had to pay like $25. I was excited. And she was calling me like, how am I supposed to take care of her? I'm like,
Ask the courts.
figure it out.
Ask
You
the
put me
courts.
on child
Right.
support. But then I think it wasn't just like becoming more emotionally mature, but more financially mature.
Okay.
Because I had to look, this is just reality. I had to look at it financially because I would struggle with, I'm paying you money, but then when the kids come to me, they have additional needs. So how do I live? Yeah, how do I make a living, especially when I'm in a space and they're like, the child support is to take care of the kids. And I'm like, if this is what y'all are saying, why do I always have to pay this part? Because I'm not getting reimbursed for nothing.
Right.
When it comes to filing taxes,
Right.
you don't claim the fact, you don't deduct your child support,
Right.
right? But that person can claim it as income.
Yep.
So I'm like, there's these huge disconnects. I'm like, why do I feel like I'm always losing in that way? I love my kids to death, but financially I'm struggling. So I had to do a lot of inner work, a lot of financial building, because that's why my organization focuses more on finance. I'm like, I have to figure this out so that I can have better relationships with my kids, because that was a huge issue. I remember my oldest daughter, she was like, Dad, you disappeared for like 3 years. I said I had to, because I was struggling with trying to figure out, how do I make this all make sense financially for myself and still live?
Right.
Because they're in reverse, even though it was $25, in reverse, as I, started making more money, the price went up so high. I'm like, y'all not taking into account that I got these kids all the time.
Yep.
Y'all not taking into account that I'm paying for this. Like, I'm starting to list all these expenses. I'm like, man, is it worth it? But like, how do I live? Right. And then I can't call her and be like, can you send some? Because again, we don't have that.
You could always call, brother.
Yeah. Well, that's true. I could call her, but then she gonna hit me like I hit her back then. So the good thing is we're beyond that. But the biggest thing for me, looking at the system of child support, it is not to take care, and it's never been to take care of the child. No. And I think families, as we become better co-parents, we try to figure out the system, have to address that. Like, this is not to take care of the kids. Like, we just gonna be for real. This is a system created to continue to break up the families, parenting abilities, communication, because it works really well, and they get a cut for that.
Oh yeah. You got to pay the processing fee. The publishing house, I think it's called, something like that. You got to pay them every time you pay. But I think that two things you said. The communication piece is that once you get to a point where you can communicate, and I did a piece on communication and talking about co-parenting, and how when you take out the emotions, if you just remove the emotions from co-parenting and make it just about the kid, and everything reverts back to the kid. What's the best for the kid? How does this affect the kid? If we're not having a conversation about the kid, why are we talking, right?
That's real.
We shouldn't be talking about anything else besides that. Once you can get to that place with someone, then you're going to see the grace that you want from them. You're going to start giving it to them, and then it's going to be reciprocated, and it's going to make it a whole lot better. So if you call, hey, you know what? I know that you're supposed to get them this weekend, but I really got something going on this weekend. You mind if they stay? Then it's going to be an easy yes. Before it may be a no. This is my time.
Yeah.
And I was like that.
100. Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie to you. I was like that when I was splitting time with her mom. I didn't get a lot of time when we lived in two different states. I would get my summers, I would get this. So I was very stingy with it.
Yeah.
But I had to understand that if I'm getting all summer, when do they get time with no school to hang out together?
Yeah.
I wasn't thinking. I was being selfish, right?
Yeah.
And summertime is 3 months, 2.5 months. I can't give up 2 weeks. Right? I can't give. I was being selfish. Yeah. But as I grew and started looking at things different, and what's better for my daughter, as I said, take it back to the child. Is it better for my child to have some uninterrupted time with her mom in the summertime? Or is it better for me to prove to her that this is my time? And at first I would have to prove to her.
Yeah.
I had to.
I mean, if I had a chance to live a different life, I would advocate for child support reform and how it's modeled. And like, some things can remain the same, but one of the things that's missing is, like, of course they have this mediation component, right? But the mediation isn't as financially, like, focused as it should be.
Right.
So for example, we know there are common things that kids should have so that they can be sustainable, right? Those are never talked about in child support conversations. No. I remember one time I asked the child support person, I said, so how is this calculated? She looked me in the face. She's like, I don't know. There's a formula.
Yeah.
What is this formula? Well, how are y'all deciding that these children should be? I said these these children should be taken care of, and what that means. So it's like, of course, like, that's a whole nother conversation. But I'm like, it'd be dope if parents submitted budgets.
Yeah.
Right? Here's a budget for this month or the next couple months to make sure that these kids are taken care of on both ends. Right? Because that financial piece is just as important as the emotional piece, just as important as communication piece. But there are so many things that can happen with that financial piece that when I'm talking to my kids' moms now, like we checking off boxes. Okay, here's my daughter's investment account. We good. Check that off. Okay, there's their life insurance. Let's check that off. Like we're doing that together where it's like, man, if we could start to build that as a foundational principle, of course, sometimes leveraged by child support. If the goal is to focus on the child through child support, that'll be dope. But we know that's not the goal. So I just let that die on the hill.
But, you know, sometimes it's maturity. It's not even the system. The system comes into place when two people can't be mature and have a conversation. Then the system has to be brought in, right? So imagine if the conversations that you and your ex are having now, if y'all was mature enough to have them then. You see what I'm saying? Then a lot of the stuff that happened in between wouldn't happen. Facts. But it's that maturity, it's that conversation, and it's that respect. Yeah. It's that respect. So yeah, to go back to your question, money. Deadbeats associated with money because that's how the world has said that you take care of a kid. If you look at it, you don't pay no child support, you can't see your kid. They never say you don't come to no basketball games, you can't see your kid. You don't help on the homework, you can't see your kid. It always starts off with when he ain't paying child support.
That's true.
And so they're holding the kid hostage for child support. And usually it doesn't matter the amount. So think about that.
Yeah, that's true.
That's when you know they're using it as a weapon because it's not an amount, it's that you're just not paying. Yep. And then on the other side, because fellas, I'm not letting y'all off the hook either. Right?
Yeah, 100.
The issue is that you will have all this money and don't want to pay child support for your kid, thinking you're getting back at the woman. And you're not. You think you're hurting her, but you're hurting your child. And so that's another form of deadbeat mentality.
Neglect.
Yeah,
that's real.
So we got to look at it both ways. And I'm the person, when you're dealing with fatherhood, I'm throwing punches at both. Because it ain't just the mothers and it ain't just the fathers. Both of us in threw some rocks and put our hands behind our back.
And what they say, it take two to tangle.
It sure do.
And it take two to take care of them. So it's and very important. Yeah, 100. So like in addition to that village mentality, like one thing I love about just being in Grand Rapids, watching you do what you do, it's not just you talk about, you know, fatherhood, you live it, you do it. So that's been really dope. As you've been around a lot of fathers, talk to them, etc. Like what are some common challenges outside of the financial component that fathers face in trying to be what will be called a dope father?
Man, access to services, unhealed emotional wounds, self-confidence, egos, lack of employment, mental stability. And just to break some of those down, a person who is not healed is no good to anybody. Right. If you're trying to operate in the space that you're not healed in. And so you have some men who are still mad at their fathers and they're subconsciously taking it out on their kids.
Yeah. That's real.
You have some fathers who say, I don't know how to be a father because I didn't have one.
Right.
And nobody ever showed me what a good father was. But yet and still, you know, they made all-state basketball. Nobody taught you how to play basketball either, did they?
That's
something you wanted to do. So you went out and surrounded yourself with people who play basketball, and you got better at playing basketball. You know, you didn't know how to run track, but you went around people. Everything that we wanted to learn that we weren't born with, we seek out and we imitate, right? You don't see a person who wants to be a basketball player go hang out with a hockey player.
Right.
Because the hockey player can't produce anything for that person as it comes to basketball, right? But in life, we can learn from anybody. So the hockey player can teach you about teamwork, teach you about agility, teach you about all of these things, but he can't teach you about basketball as it relates to basketball. And so a lot of fathers, when we're missing that piece, it's an easy out to say I didn't have a father. It's an easy out to say I don't know what that looks like. But then you ask them, break down your life in the things that you didn't need anybody help. Because the person to tell you how independent it is, I did this, I need nobody help. I did this. So why don't you put all that effort into fatherhood? Right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
But it's easier to be a deadbeat because being a father is sometimes putting the mirror in your face. Because your kids are not going to lie to you. Emotionally, you're going to see that you're messing up. And so you have to have that piece. The other piece is always like people who go to church. They'll say, or people who want to go to church, when I get my life right, I'm going to go to church, right?
Yep.
As soon as God healed me from this, then I'm going to go to church.
Yeah.
Well, nobody goes to a hospital and sit there and wait until they're sick. Right? Nobody does that.
Right. Yeah.
So, as a father, don't wait. And if you've already burnt the bridge, don't wait for God or whoever you believe in to rebuild that bridge for you to walk over to fatherhood.
Yeah.
You have to rebuild that bridge. But you cannot rebuild that bridge with the same wood that you used to burn it down.
Yeah.
And so a lot of fathers struggle with their ego gets in the way because they want to parent kids at the same rate that they did when they left them. So if you were my father and you left me at 15, you can't come back when I'm 25 and try to father me like I'm 15. Right. So now we got to have a different relationship, and you got to eat some crow, brother. We got to have a conversation.
Yeah.
We got to have a conversation. Fathers don't want to hear their shortcomings. And it's a lot of times you hear the blame game.
Yep.
Your mama did this and your mama did that and your mama wouldn't allow this and your mama wouldn't, and it's like, okay, some mothers are like that. But when she did it, did you give up when she put that wall up or did you fight?
Right.
And they never get to that question and don't want to answer that question. So then you look at the lack of resources. If I'm a father and I'm down on my luck, but I still want to be a father, the system's not allowing me to be a father. Why? Because I don't have a job. I don't have anywhere to stay. I don't have transportation. Now flip it. If I'm a mother in the same predicament, they're going to help me with transportation. They're going to help me with a job. They're going to help me get a house. They're going to help me with all of these things. Now, not saying that there's not organizations that help fathers, but when you look at the scale, it's so small. Right now, the homeless population with fathers, right, of having their kids, there's not a lot of resources out there.
Right.
So as a father, I'm supposed to be a protector and a provider. Imagine how a man feels when he feels like he can no longer protect and provide. And I don't mean protect by fighting and all of this, but how can I not protect my family and provide for my family? And say I'm working on myself. While I'm working on myself, then I'm still not having that connection with my child because the system or the mother or someone is saying, I'm not good enough. Right? Yeah. And so we have to look at all of those things. Right. We have to look at what is co-parenting. What does co-parenting look like?
Yeah, what does co-parenting look like?
Co-parenting is centered around the best for the kid. Co-parenting is making sure that you both have a part. And I talked about the puzzle pieces when we were at the We Matter Now conference and understanding that in this parenting puzzle, there's 3 pieces. It's you, it's her, and it's the kid. The kid is in the middle. The piece together is the whole puzzle. You have to figure out how to make your piece and her piece fit into his or her piece in the middle so that you can so it can be complete. Sometimes we want to just put our puzzle pieces everywhere in co-parenting. When y'all was together, you know you wasn't good at finances. Now all of a sudden you the guru, right? Now you know that you wasn't good at math and say, I want to help him with his homework. No, you don't. That's not your realm, right?
That's facts.
You have to understand your limitations. And so when you're co-parenting, you also got to understand that you have to take the emotions out of it. I'm a big fan of 2 people from totally 2 different lives co-parenting, because I think that makes a well-rounded kid, because you're getting both perspectives. When it's done right. When it's done right. So I think that's the center of co-parenting. If I had to, you've got to be on the same page. Got to have communication. Got to have respect. And I'm not telling y'all nothing that I didn't have to learn. People say, yeah, me. No, I'm telling you nothing. Man, Bumps and bruises, y'all. Bumps and
Tell
bruises.
me some of these bumps and bruises. Tell me. Well,
I didn't like to be told how to parent, and I would take what she said as her telling me how to parent. But what she was doing was enlightening me on how she was parenting and how it worked for her. But because I was stuck in my mode, it's like you're trying to change me and you're trying to dismiss my upbringing. And you're trying to say that way my family did it wasn't right because your family did it this way. And that was huge for me, you know. The other thing is that she knew how to push my buttons. And I
know. They know.
I knew that she knew that I knew that she knew how to push my buttons, and I still allowed it to happen. Right.
It's real.
So I had to understand.
Now, did you know how to push her buttons?
I did, but I'm not really a button pusher.
Yep.
Like I'm just not really a button pusher, but I am very good with my words.
Right.
And sometimes my words will feel like a punch.
Yeah.
And I had to understand that because I would feel bad after a bad argument.
Right.
Because that's the type of person I am. Now, I said what I said. And my emotions meant what I said. But when I got time to sit back, it's like, man, there's something about being a man. And when you with a woman, whether it's your wife or your girlfriend, fiance, or whatever, if you truly love this person, when you say hateful things to them, and you mean what you said when you said it, as a man, you feel horrible afterwards. Yep. You walk away and you're like, I can't believe I said that.
Yep.
And a lot of times we will hold back because we'll let you say all of your hateful things. But I can't look at you every day knowing what I just said to you.
Yep.
How I just made you feel. I can't just go the next day. And so I didn't want that to be our relationship. I didn't want that to be the way that we communicated, in the way that our daughter saw us cohabitating in this co-parenting. And not saying, like, again, it wasn't always peaches and cream.
Yeah, 100.
It wasn't, but we've gotten to that place, and we still got work to do, but we got to that place. Other bumps was, I'm very selfish with my time with my daughter. Like, if people know me and they see me, they know I am very selfish with my time. And there were some times where I was not understanding. There was no compromise. There was no give. Yeah. Because it was about my time, and I was focusing on the time that I was losing when I'm not there.
Right.
And that felt it felt bad for me. Like, I grew up with my father, right? But my father was present, but not always active, right? And so people say, "Oh, you had your dad." Yeah, but did I? You know?
Right.
Yeah. And so when I got to that point of, I know how it felt during that time away from my father, and how that made me feel. So I never wanted my daughter to get that. So I used to live in New Mexico, and my daughter lived in Arizona. I would get off on a Friday, and if I couldn't get a flight, I would drive 6 hours after work to go over there and see my daughter and drive back on Sunday, 6 hours. That's how committed I was to this. Yeah. And I think the more that she saw how much, she knew how committed I was when we were together. But to be this more committed, that kind of eased a lot of the things that we went through.
So you dropped a lot of facts. The big one that when y'all are watching, whether you're a parent, a father, mother, or just viewing, it's the want to. Yep. When I decided I wanted to be a better father, I recognized that there are certain things I needed to check about myself.
Man,
I couldn't blame nobody else. I couldn't look at a system. I couldn't do any of that. I had to decide, like, I am more impactful being a great dad than anything else.
Man.
And then the interesting thing is other things started to come, such as me being able to live more in my gifts, me being able to figure out blueprints so that I can give my kids those blueprints, because if not, they will be eventually repeating a similar cycle that I repeated. Yep. And I was like, that's why I say I'm going to be the last generation to start from scratch, because the goal there is to make sure that I can make some sacrifices, learn some things so that I can quickly say, my daughter's 17 years old, right? She's starting to experience just relationships at a different level because she's getting older, right?
I'm not ready for that.
Yeah, and I fail, and I can be honest, I fail at a lot of those relationship things, and I can blame But put all that aside, I failed because I decided that I didn't want to focus on the process of learning and getting better earlier on. I kept putting, like you said, putting it off.
Yep.
I'm going to wait. So that was super powerful. So I know we've been dropping some good nuggets. And like I always tell our guests, there will be season 2s and we definitely going to bring you back. But before we end, I usually give.
About to end?
Yeah, I know.
How long
right?
we been on here? We ain't even been
know.
on here that long.
We can go another hour. You want to go another hour?
I'm free, man. I can talk about fatherhood all day.
Yeah.
Fire questions.
Yeah. We're gonna fire some questions eventually. But before we go, I usually give like the other person an opportunity to ask me like any question. I answer as real as possible. So with that being said, is there a question that you have for me, or I can just give you the real?
Can I borrow $20? No, I'm just
Yes,
no. You one thing that really drew me to you is your passion. Like I'm a passionate person. When anything that I do is the passion in it, and like hearing you talk about finances and just bringing your kids in, like I could see myself in you when I do with my daughter, bringing her into all the entrepreneurship things and things like that. When you decided that enough was enough of being, you got this thing you said about the 1%. You talked about the 1% in college. And he came to you and said, "Hey, are you tired of being broke, or do you no longer want to be broke?" Like when you decided that I'm going all in, what stage was you in your life? Like, was it because you were mentally broke down? Was it because you were emotionally broke down, or was it just the opportunity happened at the right time?
So I'll be honest and say all of it. And the reason why I say that, my best friend Will is in the room. He does a lot for our podcast behind the scenes, but he can attest to this. When I went off to college, nobody knew the life that I experienced because I didn't have social media. Right. They only seen when I came back to Columbus how I was like perceivably happy or had money or stuff like that. But I would go back home and struggle in many phases that I didn't even know how to deal with. Okay. You talk about mental health, you talk about all that. I didn't know. But one of the things that I kept going back to, I never forget this, my freshman year in college, I was in my room crying because at that point I wanted my real dad. I was like, I ended up writing myself a letter and everything. Really, I used to pray for my dad. Like I had this yearning for my dad, but there was no one around me that was there, that seen that, all those things, right? When me and my child's mom had broke up, like, because I messed up, like that was a dark moment for me. Nobody seen that. Right. I had to start all over financially, everything. I ended up moving into an apartment, sleeping on a mattress, right? And building myself all the way back up. Nobody's seen that, right? The experiences that I had in foster care, nobody knows that. So I kept going through these moments where nobody knows. And a lot of it was because I didn't really trust people. Because there was one time I did try to share that with somebody at a college level. And what they did with it, I didn't feel like, they didn't give me action steps. I'm a doer. Right. So they just sat there and cried. I was like, you have a hard life. I know I have a hard life. Right. It is what it is. Right. Yeah, it is what it is. What do I do now? Because I was vulnerable enough to share this with you. Right. So going back to when I decided to start to make these changes, I was like, I am tired of being in a space where no one can help me with these things. So I'm not going to them. So when I went to my professor, I literally went to my professor and was like, financially, I am messed up. I've taken out all these loans. I keep giving out money. Like I had to be vulnerable with that person. And he was just like, this is what you need to do. I never forget it. When he told me to invest and I didn't invest, he looked me in my eye and was like, that's why you'll be broke. Right? Because he was a sociologist and he was like, I study behavior. So I'm watching you repeat the same cycles that everybody repeats, saying that you want to get better. And I'm telling you how to get better, and you have the access and the resource to do it, and you still choose not to. That's a choice. So I have had to become a knucklehead the opposite way, because I was a knucklehead the other way, getting in trouble. But I had to become a knucklehead to start to learn these things differently because, again, nobody was there. Right. I didn't get Facebook until a couple years ago. So I wasn't posting nothing. I wasn't no status. None of my family was living with me, completely in a silo, struggling. I was like, I'm tired of that. So yeah, it was a space, and I thank you for asking that question because I really don't talk too much about that. But for me, it was like, dang, dude, you got to figure out. Because the other thing was I was creating my own chaos, right? And nobody was holding me accountable because nobody knew. right? I'm leaving people's house. Like, I'm doing all kinds of crazy, messy stuff. And I'm like, man, I'm not getting this. Or I may engage with like a mentor, but I can't be really real with them because I feel like they're going to judge. It was just this struggle where I was like, I'm tired of that. And that's like one point that I have for people. It's like, in order to change, y'all got to get tired enough. I don't care what. I do financial coaching all the time. I tell people, you ain't tired enough of your problem that you're going through. Because if you were, you would do something with it.
Yeah.
When you get tired enough of something, you are going to change it because that's how we are as people. So it's one of those things where I was like, man, I can't do this anymore. I'm mentally struggling. Somebody I was talking to was going through some mental health issues. I didn't know how to help them with it because I didn't even know it was mental health. I just thought that they was trying to be funny. Oh. The other piece is this, because now you got me reflecting. So as I grew up, I went through a lot of trauma. And then it was a point where I couldn't really remember my childhood because I used to play sports and hit my head and all this other stuff. And then I stopped playing sports. So I started uncovering a lot of memories of like just how I grew up and stuff. And uncovering those experiences was traumatic for me. So I had to call my older brother and ask him like, did we experience that? Right. He like, yeah, bro, this is what you went through. But I didn't go to no counselor or nothing. I'm like, how do I deal with those emotions? How do I pick up the phone and call those people that had that impact on me? I don't know how to do that. So, yeah, I went through a lot in that space, but I think my place of peace became that financial piece because I started to learn more like, okay, Dondre, you getting all these student loans. First of all, I went to college for free. 100% free, but then got into $189,000 in student loan debt.
Bro, you speaking to the choir. Let me tell you. They knew I wasn't gonna pay that much. Look, how you gonna? I came in here looking for financial aid, and you gonna give me all this money and want me to give it back to you? All right, I'll take it. I promise I'll give it back.
Here's the thing that gets me. They say you can take out $7,000 max. What amount do you want to take out? Why? Just give me the max.
Give me the $7,000.
What are we doing? Why?
Right.
You think I'm gonna say $1,000?
Then it hit you back with, you don't have to pay until you're done with school. And you're like, well, I'll just stay in school.
Right. I'm gonna go back to school to delay.
And forbearance. And I was like you, like I didn't have that in school until I was taking out money because it was there. It was there. I got another question for you. What does peace look like in your life right now?
Ooh, for me, control. In all phases. So, the last person that was on here had asked me a question, and I was giving them feedback of like finding yourself and becoming yourself. Like the thing that I have embraced now is what control truly means, and for me, control means being able to look at a situation, good, bad, ugly, deciding what you want to do, and living with the result.
There it is.
So that's what I do in many phases where I'm like, I'm in control. So if I make this decision, it's on me. If I don't get up, send those emails, we don't get paid, my team look at me, that's on me. Now, I have to apologize. I got to move forward. And or if I create some chaos, that's on me. I have to be accountable for that. So I think this control factor has, I look at it in a more holistic way because some people are like, oh, you always want to take control. I'll be like, it's not always me taking control of something to like make the decision. It's me understanding like it's a lot involved in what control looks like. And I would love for other people to take control, but they get scared and nervous about that position. Yep. And I'm like, somebody got to make somebody has to do these things. And because I've been in a space where I watch my mom, I call it single parent pride. I'm very thankful for what my mom has done, all the things that she's brought. She has made so many, ways for me. But then I observe like sometimes how that pride can prevent us from making the impact that we want to make. Mm-hmm. So I try to find these terms, redefine them, make them more holistic, involve more people. Some people may call me crazy, but that's cool. Like I'll be crazy, but one of the things I'm going to be a dope dad.
There you go.
I'm going to be impactful and best believe I'm taking control.
Control. I'm like you. I'll sit in a room and I'll give people the opportunity to take control if we're working on a project. Then when no one does it, then I take control. And then it's like, well, you always want control when no one wanted it and we had to get this thing moving. So I had to take some type of control, right? Mm-hmm. In a perfect world, when I walk in the house, that's where my control I want to stop.
Yes.
When I walk home, I don't want to make no more decisions. I done made 93,000 decisions.
Will is shaking his head, y'all. Both Williams.
But think about it. When you're a boss, right? Mm-hmm. like it's the buck stopped with you. So you're making decisions constantly, not just for yourself but with other people. So when you come home, you want your counterpart to take some of that control, right? As they're going to want you to take some of that control, right? It's like parenting. When I come home and you've been home all day with the kids, yes, you need a break. I don't care if you don't have no job, no nothing. You need a break because kids are horrible, right? So you need a break from that. But people be like, well, I worked all day. Well, this person has too, whether it's a man or a woman, you know?
Yeah, work just
because a lot of contrary to people think, there's a lot of stay-at-home dads now because women are being elevated in places more than they have before, where a woman can make $250,000 and a man they will offer him $50,000 for his skill level, and it doesn't make sense for him to make $50,000 and pay $30,000 in child care.
Child care.
When somebody can stay home and watch the kid, but I'm like that. I need that control.
Yeah,
I can give it to you, but you better be good with it.
Yeah, 100.
So yeah, that was my 2 questions, man. I think when I had you on my show, I think I shot all my questions at you like quick.
You hit me with the questions, but one thing I do appreciate again about you is we can have these real conversations, and we can talk about how do we advance and make people better. How do we make ourselves better? I think it always starts with us. The best thing that I ever could have did was put a mirror in my face and say, all right, Dondre, what do you need to do to make some change? So as we end our podcast, I always want you to plug whatever you got going on, whatever people should be looking for. So go ahead, plug it.
So let's see. Every Kid Deserves a Dope Father website. It's coming up. Bro, gonna hook me up with my website, my landing page, man. We already got the Every Kid, the ekdadf.com retail store is already up. Be on the lookout for some mental health days. Just did one with Ottawa Hills. Shout out to Ottawa Hills administration.
Ottawa.
Yeah, Mr. Maven, Mr. Bugs, Larry Johnson, the whole crew over there at Ottawa. So we're gonna do another one of those. We're going to be doing the Father's Day dinner again this year. That's going to be the 14th. Yeah, the 14th.
Did you cook for that dinner? Was that you? Yeah. Yes. Yes. Food was delicious.
So we're going to be doing that on the 14th. On that Father's Day, I'll be cooking. Me and D-Malt will be cooking at the City League Pride at JC Park. All the high schools will be there, alumni and things like that. So that's on that day. Other than that, man, just working and doing the work. Of course, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, man, 97.3 FM. I'm on there on Reality Check, man. I appreciate coming in.
Yes, sir.
We could have sat here and done this all day.
Yes.
I appreciate it, man. I appreciate the love and the inspiration. And I love how you take finances and make it fun and how you incorporate it with everyday life and make it so people can understand it. It's a big component in fatherhood. People may not understand it, but like you said, if I'm paying child support, I need a budget so I can budget that going out, budget what's going in, and understanding that, you know, they're going to get their money regardless.
It's coming off the top.
Hey, treat child support like FICA. Don't nobody know who FICA is, but FICA get paid, baby. No matter if you make $2 a one, FICA get this money. So I appreciate you, man.
Not a problem. Those are facts. So we're going to put his information in the comment section. Again, our goal is to bring a podcast that we have real conversations. I mean, if y'all choose a judge, that's on y'all. But we want to provide a platform and space where we can just have real conversations, such as, how to be a dope dad. All right. Well, Will, I'll see you in the next season or episode.
Yeah.
We're going to figure out something.
We'll figure it out.
But in the meantime, make sure y'all like and subscribe and then follow us anywhere you can find podcasts, because this